And we're live right here on the Final Judgment, brought to you by Heat Ratio and Win Daily Sports. Football is back. It's in the air. I cannot wait. We're less than 90 days away from kickoff. Training camps up. That means football talk is at the main topic of discussion. It's Tony. It's Lexi. Make sure if you're listening on podcast, make sure you follow at Go Blue Lexi. And again, Lexi, thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. This is going to be fun because we get to actually talk about football for one time. I mean, I know we're on the eve of tonight is the game 6 of Golden State. And again, as much as we want to talk basketball, we got to talk football. And you're the perfect person to talk about this because we're talking about the Detroit Lions. And not always do we talk about the Detroit Lions, right? But they are the topic of conversation.
I'm excited. Yeah, I'll always talk about my boys anytime, any day.
Well, last week you dropped the Cade Cunningham thing for the Detroit Pistons, which I absolutely love. But tonight I want to talk a couple guys. Number one, a guy who just can't stay healthy, but he couldn't. Deandre Swift, who I absolutely love. He's a dual threat running back who I think you get as a number one running back, in my opinion, for fantasy football, if he could just stay healthy. But first, let's talk about Amon-Ra St. Brown. And I know St. Brown, to me, I had him. I picked him up like halfway through the season last year. He was an absolute target machine. He was unbelievable. So what in your eyes, from Detroit, watching Detroit, from Detroit, following Detroit, what can you see out of this kid in year 2 that gets you excited?
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely exciting watching him take off in the second half of the season. I think that some of that did have to do with there was a lot of injuries otherwise across the offense, so he was obviously targeted a little more. So I do take that in consideration that, as long as everyone stays healthy, his targets might go down a little bit, but I still expect him to be the future of this offense. I think that he's going to continue to get better. His ceiling is high, and he's not reached his potential yet. So it's just the little glimpse we've seen is just the beginning.
Yeah, I'll tell you. And if this is the beginning, and if you look at down the stretch, final 8, final 6 games, his line of 51, 5, 60, and 5 is very impressive. And not only that, we all talk about targets, right? 11 targets per game, 8.5 catches per game, 92 yards per game. Okay. That's some big time numbers, Lexi.
Right.
So we actually have, I like to get these stats as much as I can because I love fantasy football. And I looked up these, basically yards per catch, yards after the catch. But here's the thing, yards after contact, 97 yards after contact he had last year. Now, everybody goes, what's the big deal? 97 yards, under 100. But let me give you some names that he actually had more than. Mike Evans, T. Higgins, Keenan Allen. He had more yards after contact than 3 Pro Bowl wide receivers. Well, 2 of them, T. Higgins will be there eventually. And a 33% target rate. So over those final 6 games. Now, just so everybody knows, 33% target rate. Guess who had a 31% target rate for the entire season? Cooper Kupp. So he was 2% higher than Cooper Kupp, the best receiver in the game last year, Lexi. So, so let me ask you this. Is final 6 games, do you think that was basically a flop in the pan here? Was because they really didn't have any other receivers? Obviously, they have a really high draft pick this year, right, that they have. They have DJ Chark, who, again, I don't know when he's going to play, but do you think those guys will dig into his production, or do you think he could be a legitimate number 1 wide receiver?
No, I think that he can be well on his way to be that. I just think that it will dig into the production of probably the numbers in the end will be a little bit shifted, but I think that he'll just prove himself. What happened in the second half, yeah, there was injuries, but he took advantage of that and showed what he was capable of. So I think that is what's important to remember here is that, he's willing and ready when necessary. So I think that he'll keep continuing fighting to be the number 1 wide receiver.
Now, it's hard for me to put in all my stock into a guy who plays with Jared Goff. It's just hard, right? I mean, it is. I mean, but again, we didn't even mention TJ Hawkinson that played half the year he was injured half the year. So, right. So, this is a team that has a lot of offensive weaponry. But do you worry about Jared Goff? Do you think he can be serviceable enough?
Yeah, so I'm like one of the few, in this one pride group that fights for Jared Goff.
You're a Jared Goff fighter. I
I'm
like
not
it.
I'm not a full on apologist. Let's say, like, I definitely showed my unsatisfaction or whatever, halfway through the season. But a lot of people like didn't really pay attention that once, like, people started getting healthy again and he had people to throw to, he was making some pretty good plays. I mean, yeah, he's no top 10 quarterback, but this is a year that he's been giving all of the keys and the tools to make a run for it. So I think the NFC is wide open. So this is where it's like, I'm going to have all my faith in him, and if he can't do it, then I'm throwing out the cards on it, because there's no excuse this year. There's too much talent to be working with, not to be production. So
Listen, he's had a lot of opportunities, right? Jared Goff has had opportunities. So, and he plays for a pretty hardcore coach as well, Dan Campbell, right? I mean, this guy is as passionate as they come, and I'm a big Campbell fan. I know everybody was ripping him about. I don't want to bring up the statement, the whole rip their kneecaps. All we know, whatever, right? He's an old school football guy, and everybody to me, right? Everybody to me just keeps putting that persona out there about, well, Mike Singletary was an old school football guy, and look, he flopped in San Francisco. Listen, this is different. You could tell, right? These guys like to play for Dan. You can tell he's getting the best out of these players as well, right?
Oh yeah, the culture is shifting, and it's like it's finally being recognized by national media a little bit more, just because of what players have said, and what players have come that want to play for him and would want to play for him. I just think it's really telling. You can say he's always like that football guy. He's the obnoxious guy. I don't care. I feel like he was meant to be here, and he's going to do whatever it takes to make sure he brings a championship to Detroit. So I'm in full faith and full belief of him and Holmes.
Listen, this isn't Wayne Fontenot's teams anymore. You know what I mean? Like, I go back, right? I go back to the Wayne Fontenot days, right? We this ain't Joey Harrington at the helm. So,
oh my God.
So yeah, listen, I like it. I think it's finally time that the national media has recognized there's a lot of good players on this team. And let's talk about another one, and Deandre Swift, who, listen, coming out of Georgia, everybody knew that he was a dual threat. And I was really high on him last year. Unfortunately, he got hurt, right? We know. But 13 games he played both years. But it was about, towards the end, they seemed to, before he got injured, they were really, leaning on Jamal Williams a little more. There's a lot of split carries. I know week 10 and 11, he really showed off his full potential. But let me ask you, if he stays healthy, because I really think he's an RB1, whether we're talking about NFL or fantasy. I really like what he brings. And I think the only problem is he just couldn't stay healthy. But what's your expectations of Deandre Swift?
Yeah, I mean, I'm the same. I was really high on him when we got him. I think he's another one that's the future of this offense. It's just about the curse, though, that I feel like we incur with players that come to Detroit. That just, it's the injuries. You got to stay healthy. We saw in Kerryon Johnson. It's like you just can never get to that level that he was capable of because of injuries. And I'm just hoping it's not going to be this way for Swift, because I think, again, his ceiling is high. He could be like one of those running backs that we talk about, in 20 years from now, because I think that he's just capable of doing that. So I just hope he can stay healthy, but that's really what it's going to come down to.
It's always about health, right? It's always about health, and it's always going to come down to health. So, there's a lot of guys that people are drafting above or below, but I just want to throw a couple names at you, and you tell me just overall who you would rather have on your squad besides DeAndre Swift, because he's sandwiched in, between a few guys. So if I said to you, Josh Jacobs or DeAndre Swift, where are you going?
Yeah. I Swift still, I think, it's not really like a biased thing right now, but I just think that like the dual capabilities and his strength, I think that he's only going to get stronger now, especially like with coming out of this injury, that he's just determined. So yeah, give me him.
Now, one guy I would go see if you disagree, and people, I like to go against the grain, so I got the name Jigsaw, but I would take DeAndre Swift over Zeke Elliott. And this has nothing to do with my Philly Dallas bias. Okay, this is just straight that Zeke Elliott is not the same guy, Lexi. He's not the
No,
same guy we all thought, right? And
and that's
DeAndre
not
Swift
my
is dual
bias
threat
against
guy.
Buckeyes talking either, because
Ah,
you
see,
know. But hey, here one thing we can unite on is the Cowboys, because they are like my top three most hated. So
I
we'll
love
get
it.
there. But yeah, no, definitely not. He just has been given so many opportunities and whatnot. I think that kind of just his, outside things got interfered with or whatever, because he's just never lived up to the true expectation, I think, in my opinion. So no, I wouldn't take him over Zeke Elliott. I wouldn't.
I mean, listen, Zeke got paid. Zeke got paid, and then when he got paid, everything stopped,
He was
right?
like, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. We all know how that goes. We all knew,
Yeah.
like, we saw that. How come Jerry didn't see that? That's what crazy. That's crazy to me. Jerry's world, and we're all just living in it. But I'll tell you one guy that I really like. I think it's kind of like a toss up here. He's not a dual threat guy, but I think he can be that explosive. Is Javonte Williams in Denver, especially now with the quarterback situation, with Russell Wilson, with the complement of weaponry they have out there at the wide receiver position. I
Yeah.
really, right? I really, and now let me ask you, I know you're a college, you're an avid college football watcher. I am not, right? I know, listen, you Go Blue is for Michigan. Just if everybody's asking, Go Blue is for Michigan. Okay.
Yeah.
So Lexi, when he was in the college ranks, from UNC. I mean, he came. Did you expect him to be this kind of running back? Because even though they had Melvin Gordon and they kind of, slowly but surely went to Javonte Williams, they still brought Melvin Gordon back. But he
Mhm.
is the future, right? He is
Yeah.
explosive. You expect good things out of him this year.
I do. Denver's offense is actually probably one of the most intriguing things that I'm looking forward to in this season, because I just think that Russell Wilson is going to be a really good plug for it. And I actually have high expectations for the offense across the board. So I'm excited, because I've always been a Russell Wilson fan. I don't care anyone says he's corny, whatever.
Me
Like,
too.
he's been one of my favorite guys, hard worker, good player. So I only wish him the best. I hope he succeeds.
I'm with you. I'm a big Russ guy, and I think, again, and if he's watching it, me and Jason do Sirius every Sunday night from 9 to 11, and Jason loves to hate on Russell Wilson, and
Many people
there,
do. I don't understand it.
I don't get it. I don't
Like, oh, he
understand.
loves
Like,
this woman too much. God
what?
forbid.
I know, like. Listen, and well, here's the thing too. Everybody talks about how bad he didn't even have that terrible of a year.
No,
Like, he was hurt and he came back. It
it
wasn't
was
even that
time to part
bad,
ways with Seattle. It was
right?
time to part ways. So that's just, and it
Yes.
was a mutual thing, though. I think it was really necessary for both parties to just end that.
No, I completely agree. I mean, people do also forget he's a year removed from two back-to-back 4,000-yard plus seasons where he threw 35 plus touchdowns.
I
Come
know.
on, man. The guy just didn't all of a sudden wake up and lose his talent.
I know.
He keeps himself in phenomenal shape. He's a student of the game. And, I'm a big baseball guy too. And I always remember that back in the day, guys like pitchers like Greg Maddux, when they lost their speed, they learned how to pitch accurately, more efficiently. This is what Russell Wilson will do. If he loses the arm strength, he's going to learn how to capitalize on other things, because he is so smart and he is such a student of the game. So yeah, I love Russell Wilson. So let's end on this. Because obviously the whole point of this is, again, you're listening to Final Judgment here at Heat Ratio and Win Daily Sports, sponsored by the Sharp app, your one-stop shop for all things sports betting. As you see the hat, it's Tony, it's Lexi, Amon-Ra St. Brown. Now, I say, Lexi, that St. Brown is going to be a top 10 fantasy receiver. I'm saying it early. I don't care. For me, he is up in that upper echelon. I think people are going to sleep on him, get him late. Do you think he can finish? I know I'm not saying you're a huge fantasy football player here, but if
I
I
am.
said to you top 10, can he finish in the top 10?
Yeah, absolutely. And I love the love, though, coming from outside of Detroit. That's great, because I think that a lot of people are going to sleep on him, and it's going to be surprising for a lot of people, but real ones know.
Exactly. Real ones, no. And just to give you an idea, I'm looking at early projections where he's projected outside the top 15. Okay. Below guys like a Brandon Cooks in Houston. Are you kidding me? That team out there, you're below Brandon Cooks. Like, I'm sorry, but
Detroit versus
um,
everybody.
yeah, it's nuts. I mean, listen, the average I'm looking at is 80 to 90. I see, but the yards are down. A lot of his projections are between 950 and 1,000. But I think that's what people are sleeping on. At 10 yards per catch last year, it's going to be a different offense this year. It's going to
I
be spread
know.
out a little bit more. So I think he's going to get more yards, and I think that's what people are starting to sleep on. So let me ask this: what about DeAndre Swift? Can DeAndre Swift be an RB1? Or is he more like an RB2, do you think?
I mean, I think it's all going to come down to him being healthy because
Yes.
through week 11 last year, he was a top 10, running back in, I think even in fantasy, everything. So, once he got hurt, then obviously that was the end of that, but he's got the capability to be there, but it's just all about staying healthy. So we can cross our fingers that we aren't cursed as always, and he can overcome this.
Yes, no curse, no curse. We just want health because listen, we all benefit if these young guys perform just from a talent standpoint, from an NFL lover for sure. But we're gonna get out of here. For Tony, for Lexi, everybody, thanks for joining in. Get us at the comments, follow at Heat Ratio Sports, at Win Daily Sports. Give us a follow. Make sure you're subscribed to the YouTube channel. Any questions, ask us. We'll head them up in the threads. You'll be seeing more of me. You'll be seeing more of Lexi, and everybody else. Have a fantastic night, and we'll catch you next time.
See ya.